a number of approaches to sword and buckler that we know from the various traditions. And one of them is Andres Lignitzer's buckler plays. And he has a very rudimentary way of describing those plays. And the one that we were looking at, or parts of it at least, was Lignitzer's first play. And he says that when you strike from your right shoulder, you should strike in such a fashion that the pommel is next to the thumb of the shield hand, which sounds a little bit bizarre, but if we are striking, and I actually do it the way that I'm used to from 133 with using a hip hinging, which means that one shoulder, namely the sword shoulder, if I start right leg forward, will be leading and the shield shoulder will be trailing. Therefore, the pommel of my sword is next to the shield thumb. So this is exactly like it is described by Lignitzer, that my hand is just so covered by this buckler. So in this respect, we don't know if this is what Lignitzer describes, but there is no contradiction to what he says. Yeah? So always take anything I say with a grain of salt. I haven't seen any of these fights. I'm just trying to give you, to explain my approach to you. Yeah? You're welcome to question at any time. Okay, so this is what we did, and we were talking about the ideal fight. This is a term that I created. The ideal fight would be, Cornelius's ideal fight would be that I get close, but I never claim the center. So as he has claimed the center, he sees there's a line and he thrusts me in the face. Okay, but still, he's using a two-parted attack. This is not particularly described in Lignitzer. Yeah? It just says he strikes and then he wind to your left and thrust at his face. I think he actually says to his mouth. Okay? If you train the whole thing in dynamics, in a dynamic flow, this technique works wonderfully. I thrust him. So that's the first part of his description, and this is what you were training. Yeah, I felt I won the bind. He tried to win the bind. Here he won the bind. And I did the same thing. Right? Both of us are determined to first control the center by striking towards the center. If there's no ideal fight because the other one is doing the same thing, then we have possibly one of these outcomes. If he puts your first action aside, namely this thrust, if he puts that aside, I should wind to the other side. Okay? So I'll show this again. Here I want to thrust to his face, but it doesn't happen. So as he presses, I wind to the other side. Now Cornelius is doing it, so I'm setting your first action aside. Here comes his thrust. If this fails, so if I feel this pressure quite early on, then I'm going to relax and do what he calls Überschnappen. All right, and this is a brilliant position for sword and shield, any sword and shield. If you ever get there, he's at your mercy. You give him sufficient pressure towards his center of mass. Don't ever press to the hands because then he can do something. You press through his center of mass towards him, and then of course you go on hitting him, because if this is an armor, you want to make multiple hits while you are pinning him with your shield. So see, I'm actually going through all the actions. At first I'm going through the winding thrust, is going to be set aside. I'm doing a duplieren-like action or durchtreten-like action. And as this is being set aside, I'm going to relax my hand, lift the pommel, and strike the Twerhau. That final action again, and now Cornelius is doing it.